What's poppin', y'all? It's your girl Lavish Han reporting to you live, and today, child, it's time to get into some business.
Don't you realize you poppin'? Every time you walk in the room, you break neck.
Hello, boys.
Real hot girl shit.
So before we even get into this video, I just want to give my condolences and a moment of silence to recognize all the lives who have been lost, not only to police brutality, but just this system of oppression that we have lived in for generations upon generations. So I don't know if y'all been keeping track, but we're in our 4th week of protesting. This is big, but we have to keep momentum going. We cannot stop here, y'all. So if you've been on social media or at least have seen the news within this 4-week span, you've seen the phrase defund the police. So this video is going to tackle what that looks like, how that works, and why you should support this movement as well. So let's set the record straight, honey. There's no such thing as a good cop. This is not to say that people within the police force may not have good intentions. However, if you are working for a system that is constantly working to oppress the people, you cannot be good within that system. No matter how many times police reform and ways to improve policing has been tried, there has been no outcome or positivity. So whether you or someone you know is in the police force and may have positive intentions, it does not matter. So with that being said, ACAB, honey, if you don't know what it means, look it up. Now into defunding the police. So there are people who support defunding the police and feel that it should stop there, while there are other people who believe that this is just the first step to abolishing the police system as a whole. I'm one of those people. I believe that this, along with many other systems, should be abolished as a whole, and this video will give you one incy scoop as to why. So in order to understand why people support defunding the police, you first have to realize that the police system goes hand in hand with the prison industrial complex. This refers to the fact that we are one of the only, if not the only country that has a for-profit prison system. Having a system like this obviously leads to mass incarceration, and this is because companies and people in power literally profit off prison beds being filled. So how do they get these beds filled? They lobby to Congress in order to criminalize literally everything, and they target the communities who are most vulnerable, which is obviously the Black community. So just to get some numbers into place here, the LAPD's budget this year was $1.2 billion. The NYPD's budget this year was $5.9 billion. So the point of defunding the police is not to immediately strip away all of the money that the police departments have. The point is to redirect and reallocate the money, resources, and responsibility into the community and community-based models of policing and safety. Examples of where some of this money and responsibility should be allocated towards is housing. The money can fund safe housing for all. This would eradicate gentrification and homelessness. Youth programming. This would empower our youth and provide them with actual tools to help them thrive. Money towards first responders, but reimagined. This will consist of experts who specifically train in de-escalation and will provide a safer alternative to militarized police response. Here's a graphic with some of these examples and a few others that would truly help our community in a more effective manner. Strategically reallocating this money and this responsibility to things like education, healthcare, housing would all improve the well-being of our community as a whole. Instead of having armed strangers who probably don't even live in the vicinity of the neighborhood that they're coming to respond to, we need to create a space with mental health service providers, victim survivor advocates, social workers, friends and neighbors of the community to where people can trust them and it won't end up in someone getting shot. Essentially, the people who respond to crises in our community should be people who are experts in dealing with these types of crises. So of course there's a question of actual violent crimes that need to be de-escalated, such as bank robberies or just random shootings. The one thing to realize is that crime is not random. Half of the time crime happens because someone is in need of something or because there's a void that needs to be filled within someone's life. So if you truly think about it, if money is redirected towards jobs, educational opportunities, youth empowerment, arts and culture programs, recreational activity, it would essentially create a space to where crime doesn't need to happen. People don't need to rob a bank in order to put food on the table. If everyone is taken care of and there's actual resources allocated the way it needs to be in all of our communities, all of them, then crime rates will go down and there won't be a need for as much policing. To really fight crime, we don't need more policing, we need more opportunities and more help. It's literally a proven fact that policing is simply harmful. 9 times out of 10, they're not providing safety towards a situation or a community as a whole, they're destroying it. And like I said in the beginning, it is bigger than just policing and police brutality. All of this ties into immigration laws, the prison industrial complex, the drug war, everything that's put in place in order to keep people behind bars and out of the streets. And for those of you who believe that police reform can solve all of this, let me be the first to tell you that you are naive and you are blind. Police reform has been happening for generations. Whether it's throwing some black people in the mix or putting body cameras on, the system works around it. It's literally set up to protect them with things like qualified immunity. It's basically a doctrine that protects government officials from being personally held liable when doing things in the scope of their job. So when people like the lynchers of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor are set free, this is one of the reasons why.
Every single one of these institutions already has a long history of reform. You know, at first I was going to say reform attempts, but it's not as if past reforms have failed. In many cases, the reforms have been entirely successful, but the institutions have remained structurally racist, misogynist, heterosexist, transphobic. If reforms have failed to have a transformative impact on police or jails or prisons, and indeed on all of the other institutions, does it make sense to simply call for more reforms? Both incarceration and policing have only grown more racist, more repressive, more violent. The etymological meaning of radical is root. Abolition allows us to get to the root of the problem. That is why it is the radical alternative. Abolition enables us to escape being trapped by the same framework, the same footprint over and over again.
It's clear as day that policing is ineffective to Black communities and other marginalized communities. Other communities, for example, the white community, does not go through the things that we go through literally every day to understand why or how defunding the police needs to happen in order to save our literal lives. And honestly, it's not even just the white community who doesn't see this, but a lot of privileged Black people like to ignore it as well. Just because you may not be experiencing it for yourself or it doesn't hit home sometimes doesn't mean it's not happening, and it doesn't allow you to ignore it and act like something shouldn't be changed about it. Sitting here thinking that defunding and abolishing the police is impossible is crazy, especially considering things like the education system and the healthcare system has been defunded in the past multiple times. San Francisco just released that they will be replacing officers with unarmed, trained officials in order to deal with things like mental health crises, the homeless, issues at school. You don't need someone with a gun or a taser to discipline a high school student. You need professionals. I'm gonna just put it like this. The police system was created and rooted during times of slavery, during times where Black people did not have the rights that we somewhat have today. It's rooted in white supremacy, it's rooted in patriarchy, it's rooted in oppression. So imagine taking a system stemmed from those values and trying to transform it and reform it into something else. Those values are not going to just disappear. You can't just throw some Black people in the mix and think that things are going to change. The system has to be dismantled from the bottom up, from the foundation. That is the only way that we can even look at policing in another light. And I'm not saying there shouldn't be people who deal with actual violent crimes, but there is no reason in hell why someone who is armed and barely trained in suicide prevention should go and deal with someone who is potentially committing suicide. So now that you have all of this knowledge and information, what is there to do with it? The first thing is to find out how in your specific community you can advocate to defund the police department. The next thing to do is organize and mobilize in order to spread awareness, but also vote in your local elections. President Obama had a quote that stated, "The elected officials who matter most in reforming police departments and the criminal justice system work at the state and local levels." So for you to read that and tell me that your vote doesn't matter outside of the presidential election, come on. Use your voice, use your vote. Redirecting funds and working towards abolishing a system that's supposed to serve and protect a community that is actually killing and causing more crime to occur should not be impossible. This was really sitting heavy on my heart because a lot of people didn't really understand where this was coming from or how this could even work. So I figured y'all would rather watch a video than read about it on the internet. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I may not have the answer because I don't know everything, but a lot of the information I got was from Instagram and people who are spreading knowledge through that platform. So I can link a couple of the posts down below for you to read upon yourself. If you have any resources too, make sure to drop it down below in the comments, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to your girl.
Check the score, we up on the board, and we all living lavish. This is my greatest masterpiece!